There is a number that should make anyone pause before looking at anything else in this story, and that number is 9.1 million. Because that is how many names have been removed from electoral rolls in West Bengal ahead of a major state election, which means that more than 10% of the electorate in this Indian state has effectively disappeared from the voting list in a process that is being described as routine, administrative, and necessary. This comes from a very detailed story on this issue in the New York Times today. Now take that number and place it in a context, 9.1 million. This is not a marginal adjustment. This is not a technical correction. This is a scale of change that directly shapes the outcome of an election before a single vote is cast. And that is where the story begins to move from procedure into politics. The Indian government has explained this exercise as part of what it calls a special intensive revision, a nationwide process designed to clean up voter lists and remove what it describes as infiltrators, a term that carries weight in the Indian political vocabulary, and especially when it is used in the context of border regions and migration, but also a term that raises immediate questions about who is being defined, who is being targeted, and who is being excluded. This question becomes sharper when senior leaders speak about purifying electoral rolls, because language like that, that's not neutral. It signals intent, it shapes perception, and it tells you how the process is being framed politically, not just administratively. Look at what is happening on the ground. Out of those millions of names removed, around 2.7 million people have challenged the exclusion, which means there is already a significant number of citizens saying that they should be on that list, but are not. And that gap between removal and verification becomes critical in an election environment where timing matters, access matters, and participation determines legitimacy. At the same time, there are growing concerns both within India and outside it that this process is not affecting all groups equally, and that minorities and especially Muslims are being disproportionately impacted, which then links the exercise to a broader political pattern that has been visible for some time, where questions of identity, belonging, and citizenship have increasingly moved to the center of political strategy. The Indian state of West Bengal itself is not just another state in this equation. It is a politically sensitive region where the ruling party at the center is pushing hard to expand its footprint against a strong regional opponent, making the electoral stakes high and the process of defining who gets to vote even more consequential. If millions of voters are removed from the rolls, if large numbers are contesting the exclusion, and if there is a perception that certain groups are being disproportionately affected, then the issue moves beyond electoral arithmetic. It becomes a question about the system itself. And this is the point where domestic policy meets global perception. A country does not lose credibility overnight. It shifts gradually through patterns, through signals, and through decisions that accumulate over time. From a regional perspective, this creates space. When one major player becomes more inward-looking or more controversial, others find opportunities to position themselves differently and engage more actively. Pakistan, of course, operates in that same regional space, navigating its own challenges while also engaging diplomatically in ways that reflect changing dynamics. And those shifts matter because they reshape how the region is understood externally. So what we are seeing is not just an electoral issue on one state. It is part of a larger story about how political strategy, institutional credibility, and global perceptions intersect. It is a reminder that influence is not only about power, it is also about how that power is exercised. If the process of voting itself becomes contested, if the debate shifts from who is winning to who is allowed to participate, then the issue is no longer about politics alone. It is about the system. That is where the story stands tonight, not as a conclusion, but as a development, not as a single event, but as part of a pattern. And not just as a domestic issue, but as something that will shape how India is seen, engaged with, and understood in the world.